All right, so. So moving on to the voir dire motion the other day, or the voir dire hearing in response to the Commonwealth's renewed motion for reciprocal discovery and motion to exclude defendant's expert, Dr. Marie Russell. So the Commonwealth was alleging violations of Rule 14's reciprocal discovery requirement, and the Commonwealth asked for exclusion of Dr. Russell. I did find and do find that there was a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of the defendants. I was looking for a remedy. You called it a sanction, Mr. Jackson, but I called it a remedy. And I did tell counsel, as you know, at sidebar a couple of times, at least last week, that I did not want to exclude the testimony if I did not have to. So we had the voir dire, and I'm satisfied that the voir dire provided the Commonwealth the information that the defense should have provided the Commonwealth. So I am going to allow Dr. Russell to testify, but her testimony is very limited, and I think you even sort of acknowledged it the other day, Mr. Jackson. So she'll be allowed only to opine whether or not the marks on John O'Keefe's arm were the result of an animal attack. I find that she is a medical doctor. She's an experienced ER doctor, albeit, several years ago since she's worked in that capacity, but that she does have specialized knowledge in that field that may assist the jury in this regard. But she can't testify as an expert on police activity. There'll be none of that. And she will not be able to testify as to what the injuries are inconsistent with. She cannot testify that they're inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, scratches from broken glass or taillight matter, or anything else. So that's beyond the scope of which she can testify. The second part of the Commonwealth's motion, Commonwealth argued that they were not provided reciprocal discovery regarding the biomechanical engineers and others, but specifically ARCCA, Dr. Wolf, and Dr. Rentschler. And I do find, though I understand why the defense didn't respond, but it is a violation of Rule 14, so we had this voir dire. The Commonwealth was looking to see what each person did, their independent opinion, what their testimony would be, and whether they were qualified to render the opinions that they qualified. So from what I heard the other day, Dr. Wolf can testify to what his involvement. Dr. Rentschler, though, I have some concerns. It's clear to me that in Massachusetts, biomechanical engineers are not qualified to testify as to medical causation of an injury. Only an MD can do that. So I'm going to reserve ruling on the rest of his testimony. There are certain things he can testify, and I'll hear you again before he testifies next week. Let's just proceed with the trial today. So, yes, Your Honor. Okay, so those are my rulings. Are they clear, Mr. Jackson? Are they clear, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so are they ready to come in? Yes. Thank you. We'll just go right into it. Thank you.
Jurors entering. He. All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Cannoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
All right. Good morning again, counsel and Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. So we appreciate that you were patient, that we got a lot of work done this morning before you came out. It's cool in here now as long as you're away from the sun from the windows. It should be fine. The county has done a really terrific job of making sure that they got this building nice and cool for us today, so I appreciate what the county's done as well. I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left on Tuesday? Yes. Everyone said yes, nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow my instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here on Tuesday? Everyone said no or shook their heads. All right, thank you very much. So may we call the witness, please? Trooper Garino, please.
Same situation, if you might please step up, be standing, swear this.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, Trooper.
Morning, everyone.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Taking you back to the other day, I have been showing you, so you had testified about some extraction reports that you had conducted from the various forensic extractions that you had done pertaining to both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Trooper, I'm showing you a document, ask you to review that a couple of minutes.
Okay. Okay.
You recognize that, sir?
Yes, it's,
What do you recognize that to be?
sorry. Karen Reed's phone call logs.
And that's specifically from January 28th and January 29th, is that correct?
Yes, it starts the 28th at 12:33 to, I'm sorry, the 29th at 12:33 to 3:19 p.m. on the 29th.
And just for ease of reference, does it sort of go in descending order as far as the earlier calls are on the last page and then the more recent calls are on the first page?
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm all seeking to introduce the minutes and exhibit. May we approach, please?
Okay.
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. You recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is Karen Reed and Kerry Roberts' call log.
And that's an extraction report that you created from the defendant's phone, is that correct?
Keep your voice up, Mr. Riley.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sorry, yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm off the seat to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay.
No objection.
Exhibit 634.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the chats from John O'Keefe and Chris Albert.
And again, that's an extraction report that you created from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm off the seat to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
No objection.
Mr. Riley, you really do need to keep your voice up. Exhibit 635.
And may I approach? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. I ask you to look at that. Look up when you're finished.
Yes.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, this is Karen Reed's, the full chat report of everyone from the 29th on. So,
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm off the seat to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
We have no objection.
Okay. Exhibit 636.
I'm sorry, may I have the last one? May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
So returning to you what's now been marked as Exhibit 636. Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish a portion of this to the jury?
Yes.
And sir, I'm going to direct your attention to the exhibit before you that's now been marked as Exhibit 636. And Ms. Gilman, if I could, I'm sorry, Trooper Garino and Ms. Gilman, if I could direct your attention to page 3. And do you have that before you, sir?
yes, I do.
And on page 3, who is that a conversation with?
Laura Sullivan?
And that conversation essentially continues from page 3 to page 6, is that correct?
Yes, it does.
And so I'm going to ask you, similar to what I asked you the other day, if you could read from that conversation in its entirety, indicating who's speaking, content of what's being said, and the date and time associated with that message.
Yes. All right. First message from Laura Sullivan at 12:45 p.m. on January 29th, 2022. Karen, it's Laura. Please call me. Karen says, hi, Laura, at 1:07 p.m. Karen then says, John passed away, 1:07 p.m. Laura, Karen, I'm shaking. I'm so sorry. At 1:07, Karen says, we found him outside in the snow at 5 a.m., 1:07 p.m. Laura, I can't stop crying, 1:07 p.m. again. Karen, thank you, 1:07. And Laura finally says, why was he out there, 1:07 p.m.? Oh, sorry. Karen replies, he left the party we were at. I don't know what time. I didn't even go in. I went to bed. That's at 1:08 p.m. Laura says, oh my God, 1:08. Karen, my heart breaks for, my heart breaks for everyone at 1:09 p.m.
Thank you, sir. So in those text messages to Ms. Sullivan in the afternoon of the 29th, she indicates to Ms. Sullivan that they located Mr. O'Keefe around 5 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Page 28 through 29, who's that a conversation with?
This is Karen Reed and John O'Keefe.
And these are conversations from the early...
I'm having trouble. Yeah,
These conversations on page 28 through 29 of this exhibit occur in the early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you could, sir, again, please read as far as who's speaking, what they're saying, and what date and time these are being sent.
Yes. So, Karen Reed to John O'Keefe at 12:55 a.m. on the 29th. I'm going home. Followed by, see you later. At 1:02 a.m., she texts John again saying, your kids are cucking alone. And at 1:04 a.m., she says, I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach this to retreat?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you two documents. And Mr. Officer, we can put the lights on. You recognize each of those documents, sir?
Yes, one is Karen Reed call log report. Just want to confirm which one this is. Yeah. For John O'Keefe, and then John O'Keefe's full call log report on the, looks like the 29th.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to the defendant, Ms. Reed's call log reports, and specifically, if I could draw your attention to what's been, they're enumerated as far as certain box numbers, correct? 1 through whatever it goes on the last page.
Yes.
If I could direct your attention to boxes 113 and 114.
Okay.
See those entries, sir?
Yes.
Now, as far as the time related to box 113 and 114, what are the timestamps associated with that?
1/29/2022 at 12:36 a.m. 41 seconds, and then another one at 12:36 and 10 seconds a.m. on the 29th.
And is there any indication within that report as far as whether or not those calls are answered, those calls are missed, those calls are rejected? What's listed?
It says answered.
And we'll get to this a little bit more in a moment, but with regard to that 12:36 time, from your review of both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is there a voicemail that the defendant left Mr. O'Keefe at that time frame?
There was a voicemail at 12:37 a.m. These ones here, it looks like they're 3 seconds and 5 seconds long.
And they're listed as answered, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention over to Mr. O'Keefe's call report. And specifically, I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to what's been labeled as box number 134, and then 134 with the 1 in parentheses following that.
Okay?
And do you see those entries, sir?
Yes.
And what is the date and time associated with those entries in Mr. O'Keefe's records?
His records shows number 134 is 12:36, 9 seconds on the 29th, and then 134 with the 1 in the parentheses, 12:36 and 9 seconds as well, but call duration 0 seconds.
And as far as any indication on those calls, as far as whether they're answered, they're missed, they're rejected, or what are they listed as?
There's nothing. Also, 133 is the same call, and that one says missed, and it's at the same timestamp of 12:36 and 9 seconds.
So the same call around the same time frame shows up in Mr. O'Keefe's report as missed and shows up in the defendant's report as answered, correct?
That is correct.
And that is around the time that the defendant is calling the victim repeatedly and leaving voicemails on Mr. O'Keefe's phone.
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach just to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Trooper Guarino, you conducted an analysis of both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
That is correct.
And from your analysis of that phone, were you able to determine approximately how many calls occurred from the defendant's phone to Mr. O'Keefe's phone from the time period shortly after 12:30 a.m. To the time period shortly after 6 a.m.?
There was over 50. I think it was 53 or 55. But
And any of those calls from your review of those records indicate any sort of conversation as far as duration, as far as being labeled as answered, anything to that effect?
that Mr. O'Keefe actually picked up the phone and spoke to Ms. Reed?
Yes.
No.
Now, with regard to those phone calls from the defendant to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did you find from Mr. O'Keefe's phone in relation to voicemails left by the defendant?
There were 8 voicemails on Mr. O'Keefe's phone from the 29th till the phone was discovered. All from Ms. Reed, no one else.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you with this, sir. You recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
It's the John O'Keefe voicemails from Karen Reed on his phone.
From that period that we were just speaking about on January 29th?
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce in the minutes the next exhibit. We have no objection.
Okay.
Now, sir, from your review of the defendant's phone, before we get to those, from your review of the defendant's phone, what, if anything, were you able to observe or ascertain that the defendant's phone did at approximately 12:36 a.m.?
So by looking at the timeline in the phone, we were able to see that Ms. Reed's phone auto-connected to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at his house at 12:36 a.m. We know this because it's a password-protected access to the phone, so you would have to know the password to get into this Wi-Fi network.
And that would be the home in 1 Meadows Avenue, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And, Your Honor, with the court's permission, if we could publish each of the 8 voicemails to the jury.
Okay. Are we going to hear which time each one is?
Yes, Your Honor. And Trooper Guarino, again, similar to the other messages, just for point of reference, the earliest of the voicemails is the last in the list, and the most recent is at the top of the list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as this first voicemail, what time did this occur?
12:37 a.m.
And with the court's permission, if I could play that for the jury.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could have the second message. Sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could pause right there, please. My apologies, Your Honor, I just wanted the siren to go by.
Oh, that's fine.
Before Ms. Gilman presses play again, Trooper Guarino, what time is the second message?
12:42.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Now, Trooper Guarino, with reference to the third message, what time is that received?
12:59.
And again, when I say received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is that correct?
That's the timestamp of the voicemail in his phone, yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, with reference to that third message.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you want, you fucking pervert.
Now, the fourth message, Trooper Guarino, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
1:02 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, when you're ready.
That was it.
So can we just turn the air conditioner off for just a second, please? So you just played it?
Yeah, Your Honor, there was no content. It was just like a 1 second long message.
And Trooper Guarino, with regard to the fifth message, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
37, 2, 59, 1:11 a.m. Excuse me.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could.
Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I'm with your fucking niece and nephew. You fucking pervert. You're a fucking pervert.
And the sixth message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
1:18 a.m.
Gilman, if you could.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit your niece. I need to go home. You are fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. He's sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
The seventh message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
5:23 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. The last and eighth message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
6:08 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Gilman, if you could pause there for 1 second, I'm sorry. With respect to this message received on Mr. O'Keefe's phone at 6:08 a.m., from your knowledge of the investigation, where was the defendant, who, if anyone, was with her or around her at the time of this message at 6:08 a.m.?
Jen McCabe, Kerry Roberts. During the message, you can hear someone on the phone with 911.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gilman, if you could.
Yes, I need someone to be more important. 34 years ago, Vietnam, the Navy attacked on this now. Yeah. We're blended. I will be blended, Harry.
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Can we turn the air conditioning back on? Thank you very much.
Now, Trooper Garino, in addition to the 53 phone calls that you've testified about the defendant made to Mr. O'Keefe from that time frame following 12:30 a.m. to approximately just past 6 a.m., did you note any other calls to a contact listed within the defendant's phone as mom?
Yes.
And when were those calls placed?
I believe there's one at 1:10-ish in the morning. I forget the exact timestamp. There's also one at around 4:40 in the morning, and then at 4:42, right around 4 in the morning. Two of them, the first two weren't answered, and then the third phone call was answered.
Now, with respect to Ms. Reed's phone from that same time period, what, if any, phone calls did you observe to a contact listed in the defendant's phone as dad?
It's the same number. So when I looked at it in one report, it showed as dad, and then when I looked at it in Celebrate, it came up as mom. So I don't know how it's attributing. Maybe she has it listed twice. I never looked at her actual phone. So this is what the extraction is showing me.
Now, sir, you testified the other day that upon your review of the defendant's extraction reports, you were not able to determine there were no listed GPS locations for the defendant's phone?
Correct. Like routes or anything like that.
And that was because it was turned off in the phone, is that correct?
That would lead me to believe, yes, that location services are turned off, so
Objection, move to strike.
So no gas. What can you tell us about that?
well, if GPS coordinates and location services on, that's what would get us locations in the phone. So if they're not there, they could be turned off.
Objection, move to strike.
No, I'll allow that.
Now, with respect to Mr. O'Keefe's phone, what, if any, analysis with respect to GPS and/or health data? Well, let me ask you this: from your training experience and your casework with respect to forensic analysis of electronic devices, what is health data in a cell phone? How is that recorded, and what, if anything, can that tell you?
Okay. So in an iPhone, you can have health data. To use that health data, the phone, if you don't have an iWatch paired to it, is basically just a high-tech pedometer. It's just every time you move the phone, it's going to track steps, and that's if you have it turned on. If you have the iWatch on, it'll get beats per minute, and you get a much more robust health data from it.
Now, with respect to the health data and with respect to the GPS location for Mr. O'Keefe's phone, initially, what, if any, sort of analysis did you do with respect to that?
So we checked his native locations. At 12:19, the phone is, well, I should say this, at 12:12 in his location shows that he's at the Waterfall Bar. The next set of locations shows he's at Dedham Street by Cedar Crest, and then Waze is activated for 34 Fairview. So, and then it shows me his entire route to 34 Fairview.
And what is Waze, sir?
Waze is similar to Apple Maps. It is the GPS program that, you know, punch in like a Garmin type thing.
If I could take you back just for a moment, just to the health data from the Cellbrite extraction that you did. Specifically, you looked at data from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. on January 29, 2022, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as far as the health data was concerned, there was some entries from 12:11 a.m. to 12:32 a.m., is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you describe to the jury sort of what you observed and what, if any, significance those entries had to you as far as the health data was concerned?
Yeah, so the health data shows, like I said, the phone is basically a high-tech pedometer. If you're moving it around, it's going to think you're taking steps when you might not actually be walking. His health data showed while he's driving that he's traveling and taking steps.
Objection. Move to strike.
So I need a foundation.
Mr. Grino, over the course of this investigation and your analysis, you became aware of other witness statements, surveillance video, things of that nature as to Mr. O'Keefe's whereabouts from approximately 12 a.m. to at least 1 a.m., is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're aware of around the time just past 6 a.m. When
Your Honor,
he's...
objection.
So let's hear the question first.
Oh, that's my objection.
Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
You're aware of the time being just past 6 a.m. that you've already testified to as to when Mr. O'Keefe was discovered and 911 was called.
Yes, that's correct.
So, sir, with respect to, again, that time period starting at 12:11 a.m., what, if anything, did you observe with respect to the health data of Mr. O'Keefe as signified within the phone?
So it marks when he's taking steps, ascending, or I should say, yeah, ascending stairs, and distance traveled.
And so from that period of 12:11 to 12:32, there are essentially 4 time periods that you delineated, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you remember the precise times and sort of the distance traveled within those time frames?
I don't remember the precisely off the top of my head.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the trooper refer to his report just for those numbers?
Do you have it with you, Trooper?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay.
And sir, if you could just list for the jury what you found.
Yes. So at 12:11 and 9 seconds in the morning to 12:21 and 5 seconds on the 29th, it shows that he's taking 170 steps, going 99.6 meters, or 326 feet. At, sorry. At 12:21 and 10 seconds to 12:24 and 22 seconds, it shows 80 steps and 87.74 meters, or 287 feet. At 12:21, 14 seconds to 12:24 and 37 seconds, it stated ascending, descending 3 floors. And then at 12:31:56 to 12:32:16 in the morning, 36 steps, 25.46 meters, or 85 feet.
Now, sir, with respect to what's listed as steps, does that indicate, from based on your training experience and familiarity with this sort of health data, what, if anything, does that tell you as to whether or not the person with the phone is physically taking steps?
That's not the case.
What is the case, sir?
like I said, the phone has internal measures.
So I'll allow it.
The phone has internal measures in it. Like I said, it's basically a pedometer. So the movement of the phone, the distance traveled, it's going to register as steps. You don't have to physically be walking and moving the phone for it to register movement. Just waving it around and then could potentially cause it to think you're walking and moving.
You mentioned that from your review of Mr. O'Keefe's phone, you indicated there was a Waze search for 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you could just explain to the jury sort of what is Waze and what kind of information are you looking at there?
Waze is a GPS program. So you put your address you're looking to go to. It's going to tell you the fastest route, where the police are, etc.
And when that Waze search was conducted, is there a precise time pursuant to your review of Mr. O'Keefe's phone associated with that Waze search?
Yes, it was at 12:20 in the morning.
And so from all of those steps and everything that you, if Mr. O'Keefe is searching for 34 Fairview Road, inferably he's not at 34 Fairview Road, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, with respect to the location, can you describe to the jury, are you familiar with the term based on your training experience known as native locations?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what that is?
So native locations on an iPhone, the way it pulls GPS data, it uses satellite, Wi-Fi signal, Bluetooth, location services on apps. It takes all that data, unlike where you'd have like a handheld car-mounted Garmin GPS that's just using strictly satellite.
Now, from your review of that data, when that Waze search is conducted at approximately 12:20 a.m., where is Mr. O'Keefe physically located at that time?
The vehicle, or whatever they're in, is by 138 Dedham Street. They had already passed Cedar Crest Road.
And from review of that native location data, what time does the phone arrive in the area of 34 Fairview Road?
12:24 a.m.
Now, the next entry as far as the location data, when is that and where is it indicating that the phone is at that point?
It shows me it's there the entire night, right in between 32, 34 Fairview. So,
And 32, 34 Fairview, that sort of intersection of those two residences, if you know, where is that in relation to where Mr. O'Keefe was found just after 6 a.m. in the morning?
I was only going by the photos that Sergeant Good had taken and from the Canton PD cruiser cam, but that area would be within 3 feet, give or take, of the area where the GPS signals all plot for the rest of the night.
Now, Trooper Guarino, you testified the other day to a tool that you use called Axiom, is that correct?
Yes.
And with regard to the location data in the tool of Axiom, what, if anything, can you tell the jury as far as how that works and how accurate it is?
So, like Cellbrite, Axiom will also show the native locations in an iPhone. They're able to display the range of accuracy in meters, and then also the speed of the phone in meters per second.
And were you able to ascertain from using the Axiom tool and the location data for Mr. O'Keefe's phone as far as its speed in meters per second at 12:25:36 a.m.?
I don't remember it off the top of my head. Sorry.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the trooper refer to his
Thank you.
report for the numbers?
Go ahead.
It's 0.6346 meters per second and a 16.75 meter lever of accuracy, so at about 54 feet measure of accuracy.
Now, sir, if you could, just based on your training experience and your use, familiarity with this Axiom tool, for the record, that's AXIOM, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So as far as that degree of certainty or accuracy with regard to the measurement, can you speak a little bit about that and explain that to the jury, how that works and what that means?
Yeah. So, as I said, the iPhone tries to use multiple things to get you the best area of location where you're at. I can tell from personal experience that being at 34 Fairview, It's at the bottom, Fairview, where 34 is on Fairview. It's at the bottom of a hill, and it's also at the bottom of Cedar Crest, where they sort of intersect. That area there has many hills, so the GPS signal can weaken due to natural landscape, buildings, weather, multiple factors.
And as far as the degree of accuracy, what, if anything, does that tell you in regard to the location of the phone in reference to that degree of accuracy?
So it plots a point where it believes you are, and then the degree of accuracy says you could be in this bubble, but if it's way outside or way far away, it's all going to show by how well the signal strength is to the satellite. So, like I said, if it's a poor signal, it's going to blow out. It's going to show you could be in this giant circle. But as it gets better accuracy, it's going to shrink back down. It's going to say, nope, you're right about here.
And to that point, or to elucidate that point that you were just speaking on, we'll get to this more in depth in a second, but at some point in 2023, did you go to 34 Fairview Road to conduct some GPS mapping?
Yes, I did.
And when you were in that area of 34 Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe with reference to satellite connection, cell phone connection, things of that nature as far as the strength of the signal?
So on my way to work, I actually drive Fairview quite often, and being there in person with my phone, I'll go from 4 or 5 bars of service. When I'm there, it's 1 or 2. So that tells me that strength of signal there is not great.
Now, turning back to this location data from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, you mentioned that you testified that at 12:25:36 a.m., it has a certain accuracy and it was traveling a certain speed, correct?
Yes.
Now, what, if any, speed is recorded in this location data between that 12:25 a.m. and 6:15:36 a.m.?
Your Honor, may I just
Yes.
read? Thank you. What time frame exactly are you looking for?
What I'm asking is, what, if any, speed was recorded by the location data between that first 12:25:36 a.m. and 6:15:36 a.m.?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for before that. No, there's no real speed registered until the phone is found the next morning.
And so that would be at the 6:15:36 a.m. time frame, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what speed is recorded at that time at 6:15:36 in the morning?
It shows 0.24 meters per second for speed, and then with an accuracy rating of 7.58 meters, which is 24 feet.
Thanks. Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to May 8th, 2023, where did you go with relation to this investigation on that day?
I went to 34 Fairview.
And who, if anyone, went with you?
Trooper Proctor.
Now, what was the purpose of going to 34 Fairview Road on that date in May of 2023?
We wanted to take measurements of where Officer O'Keefe's body was found, and then basically a diagonal straight line to the door, how the distance that would be.
And what, if any, tools did you bring with you, and what, if anything, did you use in the course of this analysis on this day?
So I loaded in the GPS points into a program that the CERT team uses called SARTOPO. It's a GPS mapping program that you can view through an app. So that way I was able to see exactly where I was via the app. We also used one of the big long tape measures that's in like the big thing that would get us, from where we believed his body was to the front door.
And from that, as far as the determination of where Mr. O'Keefe's body was located, what, if anything, did you use to determine that?
As I said before, the photos and video from Sergeant Good of Canton PD and the Canton PD cruiser cam video.
So the cruiser cam video from Officer Sarah's cruiser, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The one that shows where Mr. O'Keefe's body is when Officer Sarah arrives on scene, correct?
That is correct.
Now, with regard to those particular GPS points, what time frame did you start as far as your mapping was concerned?
We took the last, we mapped the entire route. So at the waterfall bar and then on from their drive on Dedham Street down to 34 Fairview.
And as far as these locations, how were they measured as far as what kind of measurements were you using in order to plot those points?
We loaded into Google Maps and just able to show it with a KMZ file to show exactly where he went.
And so what I'm asking is, as far as the GPS locations that you were recording, how were those measured as far as longitude, latitude? Is that how they were measured?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, latitude and longitude.
And you started with Mr. O'Keefe at the Waterfall Bar in Canton. What time was that, if you know?
12 a.m. was the last point.
And then that time frame when Mr. O'Keefe's native locations are putting him in the area of 34 Fairview Roads, when was that first time frame?
The time he arrives?
Yes.
Yeah, about 12:24, I forget the seconds, but 12:24 a.m.
Now, eventually, when you had all of these points as far as the direction of travel, location data, all of those things, what, if anything, were you then able to do with those GPS locations?
I cross-referenced them with his health data and also mapped it out to see exactly where he would be.
Now, with respect to the data that you were able to recover, if you could describe to the jury sort of the path of travel, starting with the waterfall as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's phone was, where it traveled in it, and where you noted it at various time points along that sequence.
Okay. So, as I said, 12:12, it's at the Waterfall Bar. Then there's a 7-minute break in location data. When the phone comes back up with location data at 12:19, as I said, he's by Dedham Street and Cedar Crest Road. At 138 Dedham Street, right around there, 12:20 a.m., 34 Fairview is put into Waze. He then proceeds down Dedham Street, takes a left onto Oakdale Road. That goes to the end of Oakdale, takes a left onto Maplecroft. As he's going by Maplecroft and Pinecone Road, right around 12:22 and 14 seconds, was a data point listed that he's ascending, descending the stairs. So he's over a half mile away from 34 Fairview at this point. They go down Maplecroft, take a right onto Cedar Crest, all the way down Cedar Crest. They do not turn onto Fairview Road. It goes by Fairview, does a 3-point turn or turns around somehow, and then goes back to Fairview and takes a right, where it finally stops between 34 and 32 Fairview.
So at the time that health data is being recorded, and you cross-reference the GPS data with the health data from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so at the time that the phone has that recording of the health data of descending, and is it ascending or descending, or how does that read in the health data?
I have in my report, and that's what's copied from the thing. It's ascending/descending stairs.
And at that point in time, cross-referencing that health data with the GPS location, where physically is Mr. O'Keefe's phone at that particular time frame?
Maplecroft by Pinecone Road, right at that intersection.
And has Mr. O'Keefe's phone arrived or been in the area as far as the GPS, specifically of 34 Fairview Road?
At that time?
Yes.
No, not at all.
And so from the GPS locations that you observed of the defendant's phone initially, the phone passes by Fairview Road and then reverses direction to come back, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then as far as between 12:25 a.m. and 6:15 a.m., there's no movement of that phone, correct? What, if any, movement did you observe following 12:25 a.m. until the period of 6:15 a.m.?
None until it was found at 6:15.
Now, you mentioned that you took a tool and you did some measurements as well, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you able to ascertain then some GPS locations for where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found?
Yes.
And what, if any, measurements, the accuracy of those GPS measurements in latitude and longitude, what was the accuracy of that?
Can I read the exact? Okay. All right. So from 12:25 and 30 seconds to about 12:35 and 36 seconds, the GPS accuracy is tight on him for the first few seconds and then blows out and encompasses pretty much the neighborhood, 34 Fairview, 32, 31, and I'll read the exact. It's 12, 25, and 30 seconds. It has a 33-meter degree of accuracy, which is about 100 feet. That area encompasses 32, 34, and 31 Fairview. 12, 25, 31, it's 200-foot measure of accuracy. That hits 31, 32, 34 Fairview, basically almost all the houses around. 32 seconds, shrinks back down to 95-foot level of accuracy, hitting 32, 34 Fairview and the front yard of 31. At 33 seconds, it's 88 feet, again shrinking back in as the signal gets better, covering 32, 34 Fairview, 72 feet at 34 seconds, 59 feet at 35 seconds, and then 52 feet at 36 seconds. So, as I said, signal weakens, it blows out, and then as the signal gets stronger, it shrinks back in. The GPS coordinates themselves are all still right where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
And so as far as, if I can take it back just for a second, the initial GPS coordinates that you marked as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, how accurate was that measurement as far as to itself where it was?
From what we had and then where we marked from, we believe we're in about 3 feet because standing there, even with the app, it's not perfect. I'm not getting a direct saying that I'm right on it. So we believe we were within about 3 feet of exactly where he was found.
And from that air distance of within 3 feet of where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, how far was that, or how far did you measure that to be from the front door of 34 Fairview Road?
In a direct straight line to the front door, 72 feet. Not accounting the stairs.
Now, from your review of that data that you were talking about from that 12:35 and 12:25 and 30 seconds through 12:25 and 36 seconds when it fluctuates, what time period of that or what time period of any of the times that you observed is it possible that John O'Keefe was actually anywhere near 34 Fairview Road, the house?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr.
Within those fluctuating circles of GPS data that you were talking about, what time period did those encompass the actual inside of the residence of 34 Fairview Road?
It's about 3 seconds where it actually encompasses the inside of Fairview. That fourth second, it's right on the edge of the corner of the house. And then the fifth and sixth second, they're just showing the front yard.
And that time period, as far as those GPS data from those circles, with reference to the following time periods after those, what, if any, based on your training experience, what, if any, opinions were you able to draw from sort of that data?
So he would have to go from the GPS point that's listed. It would take him, a second and a half to get to the house and then a second and a half back where his body was found, where his phone was underneath him. He'd have to go about 48 feet a second when I did a velocity calculation, which is about 32 miles an hour, a second to the house, a second back. There was no GPS points ever showing inside the home, the backyard of the home. There's no lat and long listed. It's just the degree of accuracy from the GPS signal.
So the 72 feet from where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found to the front door of 34 Fairview Road, in order for him to be inside of 34 Fairview Road during any of those measured timeframes, he would have to travel 72 feet and 1.5
The objection sustained. The objection sustained.
Sir, again, if I could ask you from Mr. O'Keefe's health data, as far as his specific physical location at the time that it indicates ascending and descending, how far away from 34 Fairview Road was it when it registered that?
It's over a half mile away. So Maplecroft to Pinecone Road.
In your opinion, sir, at any point in time, from the data that you reviewed, did Mr. O'Keefe enter 34 Fairview Road?
I'll sustain the objection.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you a series of documents. You can review those and look up when you're finished.
Okay.
Do you recognize those, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the plotted points I did through Google Earth, the maps, and then through LexisNexis, the track system, the GPS range and coordinates.
And the LexisNexis track system, if you could explain just a bit to the jury as far as what that is and how it's used to create these documents before you.
It's similar to that Sartopo program I used. It's a desktop-based GPS program. You put the points in, and then it will map them out and create, like I said, a KMZ file for you, so you can load it into Google Earth.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Almost the teacher.
Okay.
Objection.
Thank you.
6:38.
May I return to the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may I publish this, jury?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could take that down. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I stand up?
In fact, Trooper, if you're more comfortable standing for some of your testimony, you certainly can.
Thank you, Holly.
Gilman, if you could enlarge that just a bit. Thank you. Now, Trooper, there should be a laser pointer up on the stand before you. If you could, first of all, let me just ask you, recognize what's up on the screen now as the next exhibit?
Yes.
And again, if you could just explain to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this slide, and then using that laser pointer, if you could, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you have in this particular slide.
So I took an overview of the town of Canton. So this here is the GPS route, and then down over, I can barely see, let me just look on the map here. It's not much better. The waterfall bar is right up, I can't really tell, honestly, from this, but it's on Washington Street. That's it's down here, I'm sorry. That's why I included an overview of everything, so you could see the full range from the time period with that GPS locations.
Your Honor, if I may, just if it's possible, I don't know.
Keep your voice up.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this is going to work any better, but if I could ask if we could turn the lights back on just so the witness can see
Sure.
what's before him, and then. Okay. With the court's permission, I think the map is still viewable to the jury, and now the witness can actually see the exhibit.
Can everybody see it?
And so again, sir, Trooper, I'm sorry. Now with visible before you, if you could just indicate again what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So when you zoomed in, it actually closed it out. But it's down over here is the waterfall bar. There's a couple of points there listed. And then right around here is when the GPS tracks go, and their route, once Waze is activated, down to 34 Fairview. There is a zoomed-in version of by Fairview.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide.
So.
Sir, what are we looking at in this slide?
Yep. So this is the track. This one shows the 12:22, 12:22 and 14 second GPS point where right here where the little arrow is. That's exactly where they were when the phone is registering the ascending, descending stairs, like listed in Cellbrite.
And if you could, using that laser pointer to illustrate to the jury where that point is in relation to where 34 Fairview Road is.
Yes. So this is where they were with the ascending, descending stairs. They would continue down through this little piece here, take the right onto Cedar Crest. They continue down Cedar Crest, missing Fairview right here, and then turn back around and then come to the house.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And Trooper, what are we looking at in this slide? And specifically, if you could explain to the jury as far as the blue circle with the attached to the
If you could look this way, please.
attached to the LexisNexis tracks, if you could explain to the jury what that is and what that signifies in this.
Yeah, so as I said, we loaded this in through LexisNexis, and it gave us the GPS points for the route. The point is 348. I just want to double check. Yeah, point 348 is at 12:25 and 30 seconds. The blue circle is the estimated range, so how well the signal for the GPS is. And 34 Fairview is right pretty much by that L.
Gilman, if I could have the next slide.
Yeah, there we go.
Trooper, is this essentially the same image, a little bit closer without the graphic as far as the LexisNexis?
That's correct. This is 34 Fairview right here, 32, and then again, this is where all the points are for the duration.
As far as the blue circle that's up on the screen, what does that represent as far as this particular point in time for this GPS point 348 at 12:25 and 30 seconds?
Yes, this is as I said before, the range of accuracy due to satellite strength. So as I said, it blows out as it loses strength, and then will come back in as it gets better signal.
Gentlemen, if I could have the next slide. Again, Trooper, what's up on the screen? What are we looking at this as far as 12:25:31?
Same area where the 348 is. This is part 351. Again, as you can see, strength of signal blows out, encompasses almost the whole neighborhood, all the houses around.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And again, sir, is this the same GPS point of 351, number 351 at 12:25 and 31 seconds?
Yes, it is.
And if you could, again, just explain to the jury what we're looking at in this slide.
Same thing, just the degree of accuracy and the strength of the satellite signal to Officer O'Keefe's phone.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And again, sir, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this slide and what time frame we're talking about.
Yep, this is point 349 at 32 seconds. Again, latitude and longitude, they're all right in the same area, and that's that.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Again, Trooper Guarino, is this the same GPS plotting point in the same time frame of 12:25, 32 seconds?
Yes, it is.
And again, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this, in particular in relation to the earlier slides with reference to the accuracy that you were talking about.
Yeah. So again, the accuracy blew out as it lost signal, and now it's shrinking back in as accuracy gets better.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And sir, what GPS point or what time frame are we looking at in this particular slide?
This is 12:25 and 33 seconds. Again, same area, lat long, right in the yard of 34 Fairview.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And Trooper Guarino, is this the same GPS point of number 348 and 12:25 and 33 seconds?
That's correct.
And again, if you could explain to the jury as far as the accuracy and what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So I believe they actually wasn't that much of a drop off. Yeah. So it went from 88 feet to 72 feet. So the circle still doesn't look like it really shrank much.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide, please. And again, Trooper, what time frame and what GPS point are we looking at in this one?
This is 12:25 and 34 seconds. Again, same thing, right there, the corner of 34 Fairview and 32 Fairview.
Gentlemen, if I could have the next slide, please. Mr. Marino, this is the same GPS point number 350, 1225, and 34 seconds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And again, using, if you could, using that laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So 34 Fairview is here. So as I said, this point here is the last one where it sort of cuts out the little corner of the house, but everything's still showing directly. This is where it's believed to be.
Mr. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And what GPS point and what time are we looking at in this one, sir?
This one's 35 seconds, 12:25, 35 seconds. Same thing, again. GPS point's still saying it's right there where his body was, but again, it dropped from 72 feet of accuracy down to 59 feet. So it's going to show the outside only of the house.
So the signal strength is strengthening at that point, is that correct?
That is correct.
If I could have the next slide, Ms. Gilman. And again, sir, same GPS pointer number 346, the same time at 12:25:35, is that correct?
That is correct.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Mr. Pecorino, with regard to this slide, what GPS point is being depicted and what time frame are we looking at?
This is GPS point number 345, and it's 12:25 and 36 seconds. Again, showing that the signal strength has, again, grown and gotten better.
And as far as grown and gotten better, what accuracy or what degree of accuracy in feet are we looking at in this?
This is within 52 feet.
And Ms. Gilman, lastly, from this group, the next slide. And again, sir, this is the same as the previous slide, GPS point number 345, 12:25 and 36 seconds.
That's correct.
And again, if you could, using the laser pointer, just to illustrate to the jury what we're looking at.
Yep. As I said, there's no any plotted points anywhere other than right in this area for the rest of the night. This is where it stays, and there's varying degrees of accuracy, but there's nothing ever showing it anywhere else in that neighborhood.
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
Do you have that last document?
I just gave it back.
If you could take a look at that and look up when you're finished.
Yep.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, this is a second map I created with the Cellbrite locations from their native locations. The previous one was from Axiom. So I used both programs to map it.
Why did you use both programs, sir?
As I said, Axiom showed movement and degree of accuracy where Cellbrite doesn't. It just gives you the native locations. I used two programs so I can corroborate what I'm seeing in one is the same as the other, because if not, then I need to find out why.
And as far as the information from one program to the other program, were they corroborative of each other?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce and admit collectively as the next exhibit. No objection.
Okay. And one?
Yes. May I return to the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
With the court's permission, may we publish this to the jury?
Yes, with the lights on still?
I think so. I think it's Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Pecorino, starting with the first page that you have before you, first of all, do you recognize what's up on the screen as the first page of that next exhibit?
Yes, sir.
And again, if you could, using the laser pointer you have before you, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observe in this first page of this next exhibit.
Yes, so again, this is from the Waze app, their track from 34 to 34 Fairview, down Cedar Crest, again, returning back here. So that's just the bottom half. I just wanted to get a closer view of where the GPS plots were from Cellbrite.
And the next slide, Ms. Gilman. And again, sir, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this particular slide.
So the purple dots are the GPS points and the route taken. As I said, goes up to, I believe that's 51 Cedar Crest, and then reverses back. And then this is the final point, it's right here. 34 Fairview is right here. There's a little yellow push pin on it.
And again, sir, I'm sorry, just from the timing of the plotting of the points or purple dots that you have there, if you could just, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to the path that Mr. O'Keefe's phone takes in reference. If I could ask you first, if you could just illustrate to the jury this particular slide, where is 34 Fairview?
Right here.
And then if I could ask you with the laser pointer to direct the jury's attention to the path of Mr. O'Keefe's phone in sequence, sort of how it travels and arrives at that location.
Yep. As I shown, goes down Cedar Crest, misses Fairview, goes up to here by the house with the pool, turns around, comes back, takes a right onto Fairview, and then stops ultimately right in between 34 and 32 Fairview, where there's like a flagpole and a fire hydrant right there.
Tell me if I could have the next slide. And Trooper Carino, directing your attention to this slide, what are we looking at?
Again, I cross-referenced it with the points. This is Pine Cone Road, and then Maplecroft intersects here. And this is the ascending, descending stairs point in his phone. Doing a Google Earth elevation check. There's about a 20-degree dip, and then it goes up. And then as you go down Cedar Crest, the hill is about a 50-foot elevation change again. So it's pretty significant.
And so I'm sorry, sir, as far as the elevation change that you're talking about, how is that measured and how and where is that in reference to what's depicted up here?
So again, like I said, in this area here, there's about a 20-foot drop, and then as you go down Cedar Crest, that hill, it's about 50 feet. This spot here is the ascending, descending stairs. So as I said before, he doesn't have an iWatch on, so it's not collecting that great health data. It's still acting as a pedometer. So again, whatever movement he's doing is triggering something in the phone as he's ascending and descending these hills. Essentially, it could be tricking the phone into thinking it's stairs.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And, Trooper Carino, what are we looking at in this one?
This timestamp is 12:19, 32 seconds. That's when the phone initially starts creating the GPS points before Waze is activated with 34 Fairview searched. So this looks to be the time Waze is actually opened up.
And so from the purple dots that are depicted on the screen, as far as where is Mr. O'Keefe's phone at 12:19 a.m. in reference to 34 Fairview Road?
12:19 is right here. 34 Fairview is down all the way here. Number, you can't really see, but it's right in the bottom corner.
And the next slide, Ms. Gilman.
This is the same map, but just minus the tracks, graphic.
I'm sorry, Trooper, I lost track of what page we're on. Is there any other pages in that exhibit for you?
No, that's the last one.
May I approach this to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay. Reno, we're going to take our morning break. You, of course, have to stick around, but you can file out when the jury does. So jurors, the lawyers and I have something that we have to do, so it'll be a little bit longer. I hear it's nice and cool back in the jury deliberation room. So we're going to take a half an hour, 45-minute break here.
All right.
Yes. Yes, KNC.
You are muted.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
All right, so Ms. Giannetti, did that give you enough time?
Oh, I had enough time, yes.
Okay. All right, so Ms. McLaughlin, why don't I hear you just briefly? If you could frame this, or Mr. Lally, whoever wants to.
Yeah, sure. The Commonwealth is moving to introduce a Google search the defendant conducted at 1:27 p.m. on January 29th, 2022. The Commonwealth would argue that the probative value of this Google search outweighs any prejudice to the defendant. The search in question is at 1:27 p.m. before the defendant had spoken to law enforcement. She conducted a search for DUI attorneys. The Commonwealth thinks that this is appropriate for the jury to hear, as it rebuts the Bowden defense that the defendant has laid out. Not that she did not intend to commit John O'Keefe. The defense has been that the defendant is essentially, what's been represented in opening court was framed that she had no intent or opportunity to commit these crimes. Further, that she was not intoxicated at the time. So the Commonwealth feels that the probative value significantly outweighs the prejudicial value. It goes to her state of mind at the time that the search was conducted. Further, it also rebuts that there was any impropriety in the police investigation, or that, as the defendant has put it, that the police did not search any or investigate any other potential culprits. It also would go to the defendant's consciousness of guilt at that time. This statement is before she voluntarily gave an interview with law enforcement. It goes to her state of mind prior to that interview. And so for all those reasons, the Commonwealth would suggest that that Google search is appropriate, and it's not a typical case where it's an invocation of counsel, where law enforcement had not engaged her, and it goes to her state of mind at that time prior to any police involvement, and further to rebut that there was any improprieties in the police investigation, or that they should have investigated anyone else.
All right, and I appreciate, Mr. Lally, you bringing this to our attention to give us time to look at it. Ms. McLaughlin, I appreciate that you provided a very strong limiting instruction proposal. I'll hear you, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you. Your Honor, you had asked that I produce proof of the phone call from Michael Proctor to my client.
Oh, I didn't say proof. No, I asked if that was coming into evidence.
Okay, well, I'd like this marked for identification for the purpose of this argument, if I could.
Sure.
Show counsel. It's been redacted.
Okay. So let's have it marked for ID before I hear you any further. So Madam Court Reporter needs to mark it.
L for identification.
All right, and if I may have that. Thank you very much. Just give me a minute, Ms. Giannetti.
Of course.
All right, so this is just that a call occurred, right?
That a call was made from Michael Proctor's personal cell phone number, you can see the last 4 digits there, to my client at 1:19 p.m. on January 29th.
Okay.
Approximately 8 minutes before she calls to investigate a potential DUI attorney.
Okay, so focus on the law for me and tell me why I should exclude this.
Of course, yes. With regard to the cases that the Commonwealth has cited, I think the court has seen, one of them is an unpublished opinion, the other is a homicide case. They couldn't be more distinguishable from this case. With regard to the unpublished opinion, that appears to have been a gun charge where the defendant in that case did a search for a 9mm handgun on his cell phone. He did not ask for Google or search in Google for a handgun attorney. He made a specific inculpatory search that the court ruled was relevant, and it was not outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. In this case, we have a person being contacted by the police and then doing what a citizen has every right to do, which is to look for an attorney for representation. There's zero probative value to that, other than she's presumed to be innocent and she's seeking an attorney to defend that presumption of innocence. That's it. There's zero probative value. But there is extreme and unfair prejudice in this case. Your Honor, the limited instruction that the Commonwealth has provided asks this court to instruct the jury whether her action in doing an internet search for an attorney indicates feelings of guilt by a defendant. I can't even believe that argument's being
So
made.
let's just focus on the
No,
law.
I'm trying to, Your Honor. I'm
All right.
flabbergasted.
So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to stop you. So on the balancing act that I have to do, I find that the probative value is outweighed by the prejudicial impact. All right, so I'm not going to allow it in, Mr. Lally, in your case in chief. Now, if you feel that through this witness or through any other witness, Mr. Lally, that it then is admissible, I just ask that you come to sidebar beforehand.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, let's bring Trooper Garino back in, please. Yes, please. Trooper, if you have a bad back and you need to stand, just stand at any time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Rise for the jury.
Thank you. Be seated. Close back to.
Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lally, you left your material here.
Thank you, sir.
Trooper Guarino, you've testified that you disagree in many respects with the findings of the defense expert, Rick Green, which he outlined in his affidavit submitted in connection with this case, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I'd like to ask you some questions about your training and education and your qualifications in the area of computer forensics. You graduated from Westfield State University in 2003.
Yes, that's correct.
You majored in criminal justice and mass communications, correct?
Yes, I double majored.
Right. You chose not to major in computer science, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
2 years after graduating, you became a patrolman in Norwood, correct?
Yes, that's right.
The town of Norwood is right next to Canton, is it not?
Yes, it is.
You stayed as a patrolman in Norwood for 10 years with the Norwood Police Department, correct?
Well, minus a stint in the National Guard, but yes.
You then became a Massachusetts State Trooper in 2015,
Yes, I did.
and you spent 4 years in the patrol division of the Mass State Police, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was until 2019?
Correct.
And 2019 was the first time that you took a forensic computer course. Would you agree with that?
No, that's not true.
Would you agree with me that since then, your training has mainly consisted of online courses and webinars?
That is also not true.
Okay, well, you list, with regard to your training, some in-person trainings, sir, but you list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, actually, over 20 online courses, do you not?
Yes, that was during COVID.
Yeah. Well, 2019 was not during COVID, was it?
2020 was
All right.
when I took most of them.
I got you, but you say 2019 to 2020 in terms of your online courses and webinars, correct?
There's quite a few, yes.
All right. And with regard to some of the courses that you were taking during that time period, would you agree with me that one of them was Introduction to Computer Networks?
So that course was through the NW3C.
I
They
didn't
just had
ask
it
you where it
multiple.
was from. I asked you whether one of the courses that you took was called Introduction to Computer Networks.
That's correct.
And another course that you took was Introduction to Cell Phone Investigations, correct?
Yes.
Introduction to Previewing, correct?
Yes.
You hold no degrees in the field of computer forensics, do you?
I hold certifications.
You hold no degrees in the field of computer forensics or computer science, correct?
Like college degree?
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
You have no publications in the field of computer forensics, do you?
No, not yet.
And you've never taught a course in computer forensics, have you?
No.
All right. Well, as a Norwood police officer for 10 years and a Massachusetts state trooper for 9 years, you would agree that you've written a lot of police reports over the years, have you not?
Yeah, you could say that.
Prior to becoming a Norwood police officer back in 2005, you attended a police academy, right?
Yes, I did.
And at the academy, one area of focus was the proper way to write a police report, was it not?
Amongst others.
You were taught that it's important to write police reports close in time to the events in question while they're still freshest in your memory, correct?
That's not necessarily the case.
Okay, so is it your testimony before this jury that it's preferable to wait months before you submit a police report on something that happened months ago, sir?
Well, it depends on the data that I'm using. If I can't get into a phone, then yeah, I have to wait months.
Okay. But once the information is received that you need to write a police report, would you agree with me that it's important to record it in a report as soon as you can?
No, I stand by my previous statement that as soon as the data is available that I can do it, I will. And if, things come up, then, I do it when it's able.
So I think you just answered my question. You said as
Right.
soon as the data is available and you've completed your investigation.
I never said I completed. I said if the data is available,
Well,
then
let's say you've completed
can't.
your investigation, sir. Are you going to argue with me that it's preferable not to wait to record that data in a report?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Yannetti.
You were also taught that it's important to include all the important details in your police report, correct?
Again, it depends on the report I'm writing.
Okay, so in other words, there are times when you're writing a police report when you intentionally leave out important details, Trooper. Is that your testimony before this jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that question. Is that what you do, Trooper?
No, ma'am,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So you would agree with me, going back to my question, that it is important to include all the important details in your report, is it not?
again, it depends on the report that I'm writing. There's some data that goes in, there's some that doesn't. I can't have everything in. Again, for phone, I'm speaking to technically phone reports or cell phones, computers. I can't include everything. That's why we have the program that if I need to add something via Celebrate or Axiom, I can create a report through that. If I did a handwritten report for everything, they'd be thousands of pages for the amount of data in these devices.
One purpose of writing a police report is to share information with your fellow investigators, is it not?
I suppose so.
Another purpose of writing a police report is to be fair to the people that you're investigating by explaining as best you can what happened, correct?
I don't understand that question, Dedham.
Okay. The fact is you did write some early police reports in this case dated February 4th, 2022, just 6 days after John O'Keefe was found mortally wounded on Brian Albert's front lawn, correct?
That is correct.
When you wrote those police reports, you knew this was a homicide investigation, correct?
I was told that it was believed to be yes.
So that underscored the importance of being accurate and truthful, correct? Especially in a homicide investigation?
I write my reports, no matter what the investigation is, the same exact way.
And the purpose of one of your February 4th, 2022 reports was to explain how you came into possession of John O'Keefe's cell phone and to note the extraction that you did on the phone. Do you recall that report?
Yes, I do.
And before writing that particular report, you spoke with Trooper Michael Proctor, did you not?
I received the phone from him, but
I'm sorry?
I received the phone from him originally, yes.
And when you received the phone, the two of you did not remain mute, right? The two of you chatted,
I don't remember the exact conversation.
but there was a conversation, correct?
I'm sure there was.
And you recorded what Michael Proctor told you about that cell phone in your February 4th, 2022 report, did you not?
No, I didn't.
Michael Proctor told you that on Saturday, January 29th of 2022, he and Sergeant Buchanan had responded to 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Did he not?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No, he didn't.
Well, you wrote in your very first sentence in that report the following, quote, on Saturday, January 29th,
Objection.
2022, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office responded to the unattended death of John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Those were your words, were they not?
All right, so the objection sustained, you can ask it differently.
Did Michael Proctor tell you that he had received or retrieved John O'Keefe's cell phone from 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No, I didn't know where it was retrieved from.
You didn't know where it was retrieved from?
Correct.
All right. But you did include in your report that while Proctor and Buchanan were on scene, they retrieved the cell phone of John O'Keefe, correct?
At some point during the day, they did. I don't know where from. So there's multiple.
Yeah, I'm asking about your report, Trooper. You know I'm questioning you about your report.
No, I understand, and I'm explaining. I don't know what scene it's from.
You don't get to explain, sir, most respectfully, until Mr. Lally questions you.
Objection, Your
Okay,
Honor.
so no comments. I think to speed things along, do you have your report with you?
I do, Your Honor.
I think it'll make it easier,
Oh,
Ms.
can you read
Giannetti.
the first two lines of that report?
Let him grab it.
Go.
Can you read the first two lines to the jury, please?
Yep. On Saturday, January 29th, 2022, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office responded to the unattended death of John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Through his investigation, it was found O'Keefe was a victim of a motor vehicle homicide. While on scene, Trooper Proctor secured O'Keefe's phone and brought it to the Norfolk DA's office for forensic analysis.
Okay. So you'd agree with me that you included that clause, while on scene, they secured his phone, did you not?
I did write that.
Okay. And that was back on February 4th of 2022, correct?
Yes, it was.
Within 6 days of John O'Keefe being found mortally wounded on Albert's lawn, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you knew that the crime scene was 34 Fairview Road, correct?
No.
yet you put in your report while on scene, did you not?
Yes, I don't know what scene they recovered from. I know they went multiple places on the 29th. They didn't get back to me till 7:30 that night almost, when I first got the
Well,
phone.
you'd agree with me that the Canton Police Department wasn't the crime scene, correct?
I never said crime scene in my report. I wrote scene.
Okay. Well, Canton Police Department was not the scene of any crime, was it?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
You don't know if the Canton Police Department was the scene of a crime? Is
I
that
don't
what you-
think it was.
You don't think it was? Okay. Now, in that report, you were trying to establish the chain of custody of that phone, right? Because you described where it was found, where it was taken, and who had possession of it, correct?
I never said where it was taken. I said the phone was recovered on scene by Trooper Proctor. Again, I don't know where it was recovered from. I did find out later it was at Canton PD.
Well, hold on a second. Again, we're focusing on your report.
I know, I'm reading it.
As opposed to details you want to fill in now, okay?
Okay.
With regard to, you just testified that you never said where it was taken, yet previously you said it was taken to you, was it not?
No, I said recovered from,
Wait a minute.
the scene location.
Did Trooper Proctor take the phone to you and
Yes.
hand it to you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so it was taken to you, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So you described in your report where it was found because you said while on scene, correct?
Correct.
And where it was taken to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And who had possession of it, which was initially Trooper Proctor in terms of your observations, and then you, correct?
That is who brought me the phone to the DA's office, yes.
And you would agree with me that chain of custody of a piece of evidence is an important detail in any criminal investigation, isn't it?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that someone reading your report or listening to it as the jury listened today would understand you to be saying that Michael Proctor seized John O'Keefe's cell phone at 34 Road in Canton?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. I'd like to ask you some questions about the extraction that you discuss in that same February 4th, 2022 report, the very same report. In that report, after you name the tools that you use to extract data from the phone, you indicated that a copy of that cell phone extraction was placed on a state police server, or was it a DA's office server?
DA's office server.
Okay, on a server so that it could be accessed there, correct?
That is correct.
But that extraction you placed on the server did not include all the potential data on John O'Keefe's phone, did it?
How do you mean?
Well, didn't you indicate in your report that the extraction was not inclusive of all potential data contained within the device?
No, that's not true.
All right. Well, the extraction that you did contained communications, iOS messages, phone calls, social media communications between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it contained communications between John O'Keefe and Jennifer McCabe.
Yes, that's true.
It contained communications between John O'Keefe and Kerry Roberts.
I can't recall.
All right. But it did not include any communications between John O'Keefe and Julie Albert, did it?
Again, I can't recall.
And again, I'm talking about that initial extraction. That initial one didn't include any communications between John O'Keefe and Chris Albert, did it?
I only created one extraction of John O'Keefe's phone.
All right. That extraction report also did not include any location data, did it?
No, it did.
You didn't note any location data in that initial report, did you?
In the February 4th report,
Correct.
I didn't go through the data at that point.
All right.
This is just my extraction report saying that I got the phone, it was extracted and placed onto the server. And then I wrote, this report is not inclusive of all potential evidence, potential data contained within this evidence.
When was the first time that you reported on location data in this case?
I don't remember.
Wasn't until April of 2023, correct?
There was a reason for that.
Well, I didn't ask you if there was a reason for it, sir. You understood my question, didn't you?
That's correct. My first report regarding was in January.
And we're talking about John O'Keefe's phone now here.
Yeah.
You did not report on the location data on John O'Keefe's phone until April of 2023, correct?
I didn't look at the extraction initially.
And you also did not report on any Apple Health data until the spring of 2023, correct?
Again, I didn't look at the phone extraction. Trooper Proctor would have looked at it. I would have loaded it and given it to him.
Okay, so Trooper Proctor had access to the phone first, and then you took care of it, correct?
He had access to the extraction that I would load onto Cellbrite for him to look at, where you can't change the data. That is correct.
Okay. And you would agree with me that you didn't address John O'Keefe's health or location data in any formal report until that April 23 report, correct?
That is correct. I never went through it.
Right, and you submitted your report in April of 2023 after you became aware of an affidavit filed by the defense expert, Rick Green, in which Mr. Green extracted and analyzed John O'Keefe's location data and his movements according to Apple Health data. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Before Rick Green submitted that affidavit, no member of the state police homicide investigation team, including you, had ever looked at or at least reported on the location data for anyone present at 34 Fairview, correct?
For the devices that we had, sir?
For John O'Keefe's device, for Jennifer McCabe's device, etc.
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
All right, but you didn't, correct?
Again, I didn't look at the extractions until later.
Right. So you hadn't looked at John O'Keefe's location data in particular prior to Richard Green pointing out the location data in his affidavit, correct?
Again, I don't know. I wasn't asked to look for that data when I did look at it.
On it, correct?
Yes, there's no report until then.
Right. Same with Jennifer McCabe's location data. You didn't report on that either, correct?
I didn't look at Jen McCabe's phone.
All right. You didn't report on Brian Alberts or Colin Alberts or Brian Higgins' location data. Would you agree with that?
I didn't have any of their phone extractions to get that data, so I wouldn't be able to anyways.
But when you finally did check the location data, I want to ask you about your testimony on direct examination that you believe that at a certain point, with regard to John O'Keefe's phone, the accuracy of the GPS points was within 3 feet. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you show me where in any of your reports you specify that the GPS points are accurate within 3 feet?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. In my reports or the
Your reports.
Axiom report?
Yeah, no, any reports that you have in front of you or any that you reviewed, where is that?
What do you, that I wrote
Is
that?
it in writing anywhere, sir?
Yes, I wrote in my report that we believe we were within 3 feet of the latitude and longitude points that were mapped in Sartopo when we went to
Which report
scene.
is that?
That is the second report that I did, sir.
The May of 2023 report?
May 9th, 2023.
All right. Now, let me just have a moment.
Yep. It's page... That would be page 4 or 5. It should be in the top there. Paragraph 9. You can read it if you'd like.
Hang on. Would you agree with me in paragraph 9, there is nothing that mentions that the accuracy is within 3 feet?
From the program?
No, I'm asking you about a report that you authored, that you just mentioned to this jury.
It's in paragraph
Now.
12, I'm sorry. It says, Trooper Proctor and I began to measure...
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry. I wrote, Trooper Proctor and I began measuring the approximate
I'm not
location.
asking you to read it.
Oh, okay.
You're mentioning paragraph 12, and
Yes, sir.
you're talking about one particular spot in that, correct?
Yes, that is the spot that we
All right.
pointed on our
Now, with
location.
regard to John O'Keefe's phone, would you agree with me that it's important to properly handle and secure a cell phone that is seized in connection with a homicide investigation?
Yes.
Was it important in this investigation to properly handle and secure John O'Keefe's cell phone since he was the homicide victim?
I mean, it was. We locked it in a secure evidence lab.
All right. Well, you testified that the first time you reported on in your investigation or your evaluation of the location data, that was in your April 24th, 2023 report, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that report, you revealed that you looked at his location data using Axiom software, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Axiom is a competitor of Celebrate?
Did you say that? Yeah.
And Axiom is relied on by law enforcement across the country?
I believe so.
And you relied on it here in terms of this issue of the location data, did you not?
I used multiple programs, but yes, I used Axiom as well.
And regarding the location data that you examined with regard to John O'Keefe's phone, you noticed, or you noted, I should say, that after a period of no speed having been registered for a period of time, John O'Keefe's cell phone started registering movement at 6:04 or 6:15 a.m.?
6:15 a.m.
6:15 a.m., and that's actually 6:15 and 36 seconds, correct?
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that's correct.
Sounds right?
Yeah.
And at that point, his phone registered a speed of 0.0484 meters per second?
Just want to confirm.
Sure.
Is that the second report or the first report? I'm sorry. There it is. Yep. 0.0484.
0.0484 meters per second?
Yes.
And that's at 6:15 and 36 seconds?
Yes, it is.
All right, so now, as you were examining that data, sir, you certainly knew from this investigation by that point that when the phone was moving, according to that data, at 6:15 and 36 seconds on January 29th of 2022, John O'Keefe had already been found mortally wounded and incapacitated, correct?
From the voicemail message, that's how I was able to. I don't know the exact time frames that he was found and transported, but I know 6:08 from Ms. Reed's voicemail that the 911 call is made, and
Okay,
they are on scene.
I think we're talking over each other here,
Yeah.
because what I'm asking is, you knew that by 6:15 and 30 seconds in the morning on January 29th, John O'Keefe had already been incapacitated and mortally wounded. That was my question.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay.
I misunderstood.
So you knew from your investigation that meant it could not have been John O'Keefe moving with his phone at 6:15 and 36 seconds, correct?
That is correct.
It had to be somebody else, correct?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that once investigators took possession of John O'Keefe's phone, any movement of his phone after that would not help in your homicide investigation, would it?
I don't understand.
So in other words, John O'Keefe's been incapacitated.
Yes.
Somebody from law enforcement seizes his phone. Would it help your investigation or the investigation of the Norfolk Detectives Unit to track and record location data on that phone after 6:15 a.m.?
Well, it's there. I did look at it. It goes to Canton PD, and then later comes to the office.
I didn't ask if it's there. I know it's there. I'm asking you, does that help you in your investigation of a potential, or of a homicide, to track the phone and have that location data recorded on the phone after John O'Keefe could not have been the one moving with it?
No, not necessarily.
In fact, if the phone is manipulated in some way after investigators take possession of it, that could potentially harm an investigation, couldn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, to preserve the integrity of the data on the phone as it existed before the police took custody of the phone, there is a way to stop the phone from recording location data, again, after the police take custody of the phone, isn't there?
Yes, if you can, place it into airplane mode.
Yes, yeah, you mentioned on direct examination that it could be accomplished by putting the phone into airplane mode, correct?
That is correct, sir.
But when that phone was seized, no investigator put the plane into airplane mode that early morning because you know that location data was found on that phone, correct?
I don't know when it was placed in airplane mode,
But
but
you know it wasn't by 6:15 a.m., correct?
that is correct.
All right. And there's also another way to prevent any signal from entering or exiting the phone. You'd agree with that?
Yes, there is.
During your direct examination, you mentioned the concept of a Faraday bag.
That is correct, sir.
A Faraday bag has special fabric that blocks electromagnetic signals entirely, does it not?
Yes, sir.
So putting the phone into a Faraday bag would be another way to stop the phone from recording location data while the phone's in police custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me that during that early morning hours, as of 6:15 a.m. and thereafter, no investigator in this case put that phone into a Faraday bag on January 29th, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
In fact, after John O'Keefe's cell phone started registering movement at 6:15 and 36 seconds in the morning on January 29th, it continued to record location data the rest of the morning until 11:56 and 1 second a.m. on January 29th, correct?
I don't know the exact end time, but I know it does have GPS data points throughout the day.
So you would agree with me that for several hours after the police had the phone, it was not put in a Faraday bag and it was not put into airplane mode, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, with regard to the voicemails that you've previously testified to and that the jury has heard and they've been introduced into evidence, you had testified on direct examination that Karen Reed's phone connected to the Wi-Fi at 1 Meadows Ave at approximately 12:36 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
So you can testify based on that by 12:36 in the morning, Karen Reed was not at 34 Fairview, correct?
That's correct.
And that was the first of those voicemails that you testified to, correct? That was the I hate you voicemail?
Yes, that's 12:37, correct.
Okay. And that voicemail and every other voicemail that the jury heard was left after Karen had left 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes, sir.
And except for the one at, after 6 in the morning, the 4-minute one when she went back, we heard that one. But all the other ones were apparently left when she was at 1 Meadows, correct?
I can't speak to where she was, but
But she wasn't at 34 Fairview.
yes, that's correct. She wasn't at 34.
And you would agree with me, based on those voicemails and what you know about them and what we've just discussed, that no one at 34 Fairview, including Jennifer McCabe, could have witnessed Karen Reed outside that residence at 12:45 a.m., correct?
No, I don't believe so.
So you agree with me? No one could have, including Jennifer McCabe, could have seen her at 12:45 at 34 Fairview?
As I said, she auto connects to the Wi-Fi at 12:36, so no, she wouldn't have been there.
All right. Now, we've talked about the findings of, or the fact that you reviewed the findings of Rick Green by reading the affidavit that he submitted, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you learned in that affidavit that Rick Green was able to track not only when John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview, but also the route that he and Ms. Reed took to get there on January 29th, correct?
I don't recall his report fully, but
You learned that he was able to accomplish that by examining the data from the app Waze that you spoke of, correct?
yes, I did find that myself.
All right. And Waze is spelled W-A-Z-E, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you've previously testified it's a commonly used app for driving directions and navigation.
Yes, sir.
And regarding your analysis of the phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data from John O'Keefe's phone on January 29th of 2022, correct?
That is correct.
And Apple Health data can reveal a number of steps that a person has taken during a given time period, as well as whether that person is going up or down stairs, correct?
Yes.
And on John O'Keefe's phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data that tracked his steps from the time he's seen on surveillance video leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill and moving forward after that, correct?
I don't know anything about the Waterfall Bar video. I just have the timestamp from the phone showing it at around 12:12
Okay.
at the waterfall.
All right, and it actually was between 12:11 and 9 seconds, and then the ending period of that first time period was 12:21 and 5 seconds? And then you...
Oh, yes, from the health. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Okay, from the Apple Health. And the data showed that he took a total of 170 steps between that time period, correct?
That's what the phone registered, yes.
All right. And regarding those 170 steps, isn't it true that this data from Apple Health signifies that 170 steps took place at some point during that 10-minute approximate time period?
No.
So is it your understanding that those 170 steps all took place at 12:11?
No. Again, like I said, the phone is a high-tech pedometer. It doesn't mean that steps were taken. It means the phone was manipulated in a way that it believed it was moving and taking steps.
Oh, I see your objection.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Sorry.
Yeah, let's assume there were steps for the purpose of this discussion here.
Yeah.
Okay? Because, and they could have been steps, correct?
They could have been, yes, but
All right, so let's
no way to prove
let's
it.
assume that for now.
okay.
Assuming there were 170 steps taken, that could have meant that John O'Keefe took 170 steps beginning at 12:11 within that time period, correct?
It's saying that, again, the time frame that it gave me is 12:11 to 12:21.
Right, yeah. So in other words, he could have started walking at 12:11, correct?
Yes.
All right, but he also could have taken that 170 steps closer in time to 12:21, correct?
Well, at that point, he's in the car.
I'm not asking about where he was.
Could
or
not have
your
been,
testimony.
no.
I'm just asking about with what the data shows. If
And
it
I would
shows
say no.
If it shows 170 steps between 12:11 and 12:21, then strictly based on the data, you don't know where those 170 steps took place within that 10 minutes, correct?
To a degree, yes.
Okay. And it's possible it could have been toward the beginning, toward the end, or maybe fairly evenly spaced, right? You just know that there were 170 steps that were taken in that 10-minute time frame, correct?
Again, that's assuming that they are steps.
Right, and again, I'm asking you from the data itself.
Again, the phone says it's steps, doesn't mean they are.
All right, well. The Apple Health data also showed a total of 80 steps between 12:21 and 12:24.
Correct.
As part of your investigation of this case, were you aware that there was a 12:23 text message from Ryan Nagel to Julie Nagel in which Ryan texted his sister Julie he had arrived at 34 Fairview?
Objection. Sustained. You can ask it differently.
In any case, you would agree with me that 12:23 is between 12:21 and 12:24, correct?
That is correct.
And that is the 12:21 to 12:24 time frame where the Apple Health data showed that the user of John O'Keefe's phone took 80 steps, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, John O'Keefe's Apple Health data also showed that he climbed up or down 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same period in which the data reflects 80 steps, correct?
It's off by about 12 seconds. It's 12:22:22. Sorry, 12:24 and 22 seconds was the ending for the stamps, but 12:24 and 37 seconds.
Okay, but
Yeah.
approximately. the same
Approximately,
time.
yes.
All right. And regarding going up and down those 3 floors, Apple does not provide data precise enough to determine when within that range the 3 floors were transversed, correct?
There was a second point at 12:22 and 14 seconds that had specifically on stairs.
Okay. And you would agree with me that, and again, assuming that they were stairs as Apple Health data reflects, those stairs could have been ascended or descended toward the beginning, toward the end, or throughout that 3-minute time period, correct?
In this case, no, because there's a set point that's in the Cellbrite report that shows it's 12:22 and 14 seconds.
All right. Finally, his Apple Health data also showed a total of 36 steps between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So I would like to direct your attention to your May 9th, 2023 report, which was the second report that you wrote that we've already referenced,
Yes, sir.
specifically paragraph 15.
Okay.
You wrote that O'Keefe's health data in Celebrite shows him ascending, descending 3 flights of stairs at 12:22 and 14 seconds. Did I read that accurately?
Yes, sir.
And the native locations in Celebrite and the cached locations in Axiom both show O'Keefe's phone location by the intersection of Oakdale Road and Pinecone Road, which is in front of 36 Oakdale, and which is approximately a little over a half mile from 34 Fairview. Did I read that essentially correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you stand by the statement that he ascended and descended 3 flights of stairs precisely at 12:22 and 14 seconds?
I'm going by what Celebrate has given me from that time point, and that's what I used.
Isn't it true that what the Apple Health data actually state is that John O'Keefe's phone went up and down 3 flights of stairs sometime within the time period that began at 12:22:14 and ended at 12:24:37?
I can't speak to it. I don't know. This is what, again, I'm looking at the report. This is what the information that is parsed out of the phone is giving me.
Right. I'm just asking about the data itself. It gives you that time period and it tells you 3 flights of stairs, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Assuming that those 3 flights of stairs were ascended or descended closer in time to 12:22:14, which was within that time period, that would still give him time to arrive at 34 Fairview within a couple minutes later, would it not?
I'm sorry, the time,
Yeah, so we have a time period that you've agreed with, which is 12:24:14, ending at 12:24:37, right? A little over a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes and 23 seconds?
yeah, about that.
All right. So the 3 flights of stairs, again, just according to the data, could have been ascended or descended at the start of that time period, correct?
No. I'm confused what you're trying to say. So you're saying that he's at the house already at
I'm not asking
12:22?
about the house, I'm asking about the data.
No, I know, but I'm asking about when you're saying he arrives in that data range.
No, I'm
confused.
I'm strictly asking you just to look at the data.
Yeah.
And you agree with me, whenever there's a time period and Apple Health returns either steps or stairs, you can't pinpoint just from the data when they occurred within that time period, correct?
Objection. Your Honor, maybe helpful if counsel could refer to which data he's talking about and not just keep
I
saying.
did. I'm
All I'm hearing is
talking about
data.
Health data. I thought that was
Do you know
clear.
which data Ms. Giannetti's referring to specifically?
I'm slightly confused. I know you said that time frame that I wrote in my report for that 12:21 to 12:24. And then, as I stated before, Celebrate shows a specific time point of 12:22 and 14 seconds when the stairs are ascended, descended. So that's why I'm confused.
Right, but we're going to get to that, but
Okay.
I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking you about the fact that there's a time period and you can't place where within that time period, just based on that data itself.
Yeah, that's what's recorded and shown to me. So again, that's what it's shown. I
Okay.
can't say otherwise.
Your conclusion was that John O'Keefe could not have been at 34 Fairview Road at 12:22 and 14 seconds because Waze put him on Oakdale Road about a half mile away, correct?
12, yes, correct.
All right. And that caused you to disregard the Apple Health data or to attribute it not to steps or to stairs because he was a half mile away between that 12:22 and 12:24 time period, correct?
Yes, I attribute it to movement.
All right. So I want you to assume for a moment, Trooper, that John O'Keefe's phone location actually showed him on Oakdale Road 3 minutes earlier at 12:19 a.m. Okay? If you have that in mind?
You okay?
All right. With that assumption, would you agree with me that the Apple Health data about him taking 80 steps and climbing up or down 3 floors at 34 Fairview Road would make more sense?
Objection.
Sustained,
May we approach, Your Honor?
sure.
Sir, are you aware that apps on an iPhone may pull data from 3 different clocks when they're timestamping location data?
You mean like Mac absolute time or Apple
I'm
Cocoa
asking
time?
you. Are you aware?
Multiple timestamps that are in an iPhone, correct?
That's not my question. My question was, are you aware that an app on an iPhone may pull data by choosing from 3 different clocks when it timestamps location data?
Yes.
What are those 3 separate clocks?
Depends on the program. It could be the Mac absolute time. It could be the Unix epoch time. And sorry, there's like 2 others. I don't remember them all off the top of my
With
head.
regard to John O'Keefe's actual iPhone, did you research what clocks were available for apps to pull data from?
No, I didn't.
Are you aware that those 3 clocks can vary in time?
Yes.
Sometimes for a matter of seconds.
What do you mean? So
In other words, the 3 clocks could be seconds apart, correct?
I would have to see the data.
All right. And you would agree with me that sometimes the clocks could be off by 3 minutes, correct?
No, again, I would have to see the data.
May I approach?
Yes. Mr. Lally, did you get a chance to look at that?
Okay, Trooper, I'm going to place this before you and ask you to review it, directing your attention specifically to what is marked process 3434.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see the process 3434 highlighted in blue on what I've placed before you?
Yes, sir.
And with regard to the right side of that exhibit, do you also see process 3434 with more information on the right side?
Yes.
And do you see the 3 different clocks that are listed on that printout?
I do.
What are those 3 different clocks?
Sorry, it's a bit blurry. Monotonic date time, baseband date time, and then display date time.
And looking at that, and by the way, do you recognize that as being information that was available from John O'Keefe's phone from the extraction?
Yes.
I would offer that as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
What are we going to call that, Mr. Yannetti? How are we going to refer to that?
It could be called, you know, a printout regarding 3434,
Okay.
or printout from John O'Keefe's phone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now you have Exhibit 640 in front of you, sir. Looking at 640, is it clear to you that those 3 clocks were not in sync regarding that one process number?
Yes.
In fact, the monotonic clock regarding this particular Waze artifact from John O'Keefe's phone says 2:22 a.m., while the baseband and display clocks have timestamps 3 minutes earlier, correct?
Yes.
So if there's a 3-minute difference between the clocks, well, strike that. Do you know, with regard to that 2:22 a.m. location data on Waze, do you know which clock Waze was using for that? Or the iPhone was using with Waze?
I don't. Didn't look through Axiom. I was using Cellbrite for that.
Okay. But certainly that would have been available to you had you looked at it, correct?
Well, but the artifact you show me is from the power log. It has nothing to do with the GPS, so it's not correct.
You could have looked at that exhibit right?
Yes,
The
and I'm-
information in that exhibit to see the 3 different clocks, sir?
Yes, but I can explain why this is incorrect.
All right, maybe Mr. Lally will ask you.
Sounds
all right?
good.
But you would agree with me, if there's a 3-minute difference between the clocks, and you don't know which clock was used to put John O'Keefe's phone on Oakdale Road at 2:22 a.m., that could explain, let me just have a moment. What did I say? It's not 2:22.
No, I know what you meant.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, thank you. I'm sure everybody else did. With regard to the 3-minute discrepancy between the clocks, and you've said you don't know which clock Waze was using to put John O'Keefe's phone on Oakdale Road at 12:22 a.m. That could explain the discrepancy between the Apple Health data and the Waze data, could it not?
No.
But as you sit here today, you don't know whether Waze was relying on the baseband, display, or monotonic clock, correct?
Again, that's not, can't be used for that.
Now, you're aware that Jennifer McCabe signed a consent form on February 2nd of 2022 for her cell phone to be imaged?
Yes.
And a full forensic extraction was performed on that phone sometime shortly after February 2nd of 2022?
I don't remember the exact date. I didn't download her phone.
But in any case, you generated a Celebrite full file system extraction report on May 31st of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that that Celebrite report was the one that was turned over to the defense in this case, correct?
That is correct.
But you'd agree with me that that extraction report didn't contain anything close to the full file system, despite the name on it, correct?
It did.
Well, that report was filtered to return only Jen McCabe's communications with Karen Reed, Kerry Roberts, John O'Keefe, and Kaylee Furbish, correct?
That is not correct.
Did Michael Proctor instruct you to pull only those communications?
Objection.
Abstain.
You didn't seek to obtain any of Jennifer McCabe's communications with her sister, Nicole Albert, did you?
I didn't go through, like I said, didn't go through Jen McCabe's info.
And you didn't seek to obtain any of her communications with her daughter, Allie Albert, did you? I'm sorry, Allie McCabe.
Objection. May we approach?
Sure.
You would agree with me that the full forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's phone was not shared with the defense until it was requested by us in October of 2022, sir?
That is not true.
When you wrote your report on April 24th of 2023, in response to an affidavit provided by Rick Green, the defense forensic computer expert, it was in that report that you finally disclosed for the first time the existence of 3 Google searches by Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Objection.
All right, so ask that differently.
Prior to April 24th of 2023, you had not reported in any formal manner with anything that was shared with the defense about the existence of 3 Google searches by Jennifer McCabe, correct?
I never looked at Jennifer McCabe's phone.
And so was there anybody else from your unit or anybody else that you worked on that provided that material to us?
Not that I know of.
All right. Page 2, if I may just have a moment. Your Honor, we don't have a printout, but I have it on a.
So don't
Can I approach with that?
approach the witness with that? Okay, show it to Mr. Lally first.
So I'm going to see if I
Yeah.
can place this before you without destroying the
I got it.
computer.
Yep.
Sorry, sir. You take a moment to familiarize yourself with that. Do you understand, or can you tell the jury what that is?
Yep, this is a, you could put in a PDF. This isn't one I gave to you. This is a PDF version of the UFED reader report that I gave. So I gave the portable Cellbrite version to you. This is a copy of it, and I will not testify that anything in this is correct, because this could have been filtered.
But your name is on there, is it not, sir?
Yes, it is.
All right, and what's the date?
May 31st, 2022.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd agree with me with regard to that April 24th of 2023 report, on page 2, you state, quote, "In my initial Celebrate UFED reader report," and then you put version 7.53.0.29, "that was created on May 4th of 2022, the search history for Jennifer McCabe's phone had 2 Google searches in Safari, correct?
Yes.
And you list out how long TI die in CIKD at 6:23:51 and Hoslong to die in cold at 6:24:37, correct?
That is correct.
And by the way, with regard to the timing of those 2 particular searches, you are aware, are you not, that Jennifer McCabe placed a call to Brian Albert at 6:23 and 0 seconds?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't.
Can I approach you on?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, sir, I placed before you a document. Could you familiarize yourself with that and then tell the jury if you recognize what it depicts?
I have a call log that says 20888 with no name at 6:23. That's incomplete because there should be 3 other records accounting for this call.
Okay, but that record itself reflects a call from Jennifer McCabe's phone at 6:23 and 0 seconds?
I don't know. There's no number on here, so I can't tell. It just says it's a call log with 1 call that's not answered at 6:23 in the morning with, doesn't say who it's from or who it's going to.
Okay.
It also is incomplete because there should be 2 other records with this. This is from the call history stored data wall, marked as deleted.
It's marked as deleted. Does it give a duration?
It just says duration 0 seconds.
Okay, and does it reflect that it was unanswered?
It does.
Okay. May I have that marked for identification, please?
Okay. Thank you.
Did you investigate whether a call was placed from Jennifer McCabe to Brian Albert at 6:23 in the morning and 0 seconds?
I didn't look at any specific calls that morning. I created a Cellbrite report. That's about it.
Did you ask either Ian Whiffen or Jessica Hyde to look into that issue?
Objection.
Sustained.
You would agree with me that that call and the record of that deletion of that call is nowhere in your April 24th report, correct?
I believe it's in my May 9th report.
All right, but I asked you about your April 24th report, sir?
I didn't address anything regarding phone calls in my April 24th report.
All right, now going back to when you began your examination around May 4th of 2022, you were looking for information on, did you look on Jennifer McCabe's phone back in May 4th of 2022?
Did I physically open the phone, or did it
Did you review the data at all?
from, I'm confused, on the cell phone itself or from the report?
Either way.
No, her phone was returned to her, and then we had the extraction. I did not utilize the extraction at all.
You never included the two searches that we discussed, the, how long TI die in CIKD and how long to die in cold, in the full file system extraction that was turned over to the defense, did you?
They were included.
Well, page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report goes on to state that when you switch to a new version of Celebrite, and this
Sorry,
one dropped out.
Yeah, it was the phone call, the power log.
Page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report says that when you switch to a new version of Celebrite Physical Analyzer, which was version 7.61.0.12, you found an artifact from the browser state DB wall file for a Google search of Hoslong to die in cold at 2:27 and 40 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Trooper, I'm placing before you what has been marked as Exhibit 99. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the searches that were done at 6:23 regarding the misspelled how long to die in the cold.
Okay, and it's actually Hoslong to die in cold,
Yes.
right? HOS?
Yep, that was,
And that was marked by Celebrite as deleted, was it not?
yes.
All right. And your April 24th, 2023 report goes on to mention 2 deleted calls to Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole, who was saved as Coco in her phone, correct?
I'd have to see it, but I believe so.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked Y for identification. If you'd familiarize yourself with that and look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
Does that show the 2 deleted calls to Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole, who was saved as Coco in her phone?
I don't know who it's coming from, but it does say it's going to Coco, and then, again, coming from wall files, correct.
All right. And your report doesn't mention it, but what was the duration of those 2 calls according to that log?
On this sheet here, it says 9 seconds for the first one and then 7 seconds for the other.
All right. And those calls, both of them, which actually had durations, were marked answered by Celebrite, correct?
Yes.
May I offer that, Your Honor?
Do you need
An
both?
objection?
I believe it's already in, but
I'm sorry?
I believe it's already.
Why for identification?
No, I understand. I believe Ms. McCabe's phone calls and all of that is already marked as an exhibit months ago.
Your Honor, I don't think there's any harm in marking this, and I want to display it.
All right, I'll let you display it if it's already in evidence. I just don't want duplicates.
I understand.
So what I'll do is I'll let you display it, and then, Mr. Lally, at some point you find where this is, and we will mark this like A to whatever
Okay, that makes a lot of
whatever
sense.
the number is.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bates, if you could display what was marked Y for identification. And Trooper, with regard to what is displayed on the screen now, is that consistent with what I had just handed to you?
Yes, it is.
All right, and with regard to the first entry there, you had stated that it doesn't say, you said it doesn't say who was making the call, was that your testimony?
Yes, just says right here,
Yep.
2. I'm guessing that's the last 4 of the number, since the rest is blurred, and then, yeah, that's it.
Okay, and you know that that 0204 last 4 digits, that is to somebody who was listed as Coco in the phone, correct?
I don't know any of these phone numbers or people.
But you previously testified these 2 calls were somebody who was named Coco in the phone.
Oh, yeah, from the sheet you gave me that shows it.
Okay. And the time of the first call was 6:07:42, is that right?
That's correct.
And you testified that that's the one that had the duration of 9 seconds?
Yes.
Listed as answered
Correct.
and deleted, correct?
Yes and no, and I can explain if you'd like.
It's listed as deleted, is it not?
There's a reason why.
Is it listed as deleted?
It is, but there's a reason why.
With regard to the second call, that appears to be to the same number, or at least the same last 4 digits?
Yes.
And in the sheet in front of you, that's also to Coco, correct?
Yes,
And that has a timestamp of 6:08 and 17 seconds, correct?
that is correct.
That also has a duration, and that's of 7 seconds?
Yes.
Also listed as answered?
Yes.
And also marked deleted, correct?
Yes, and there's a reason.
And are you aware that Ms. McCabe made other calls that morning which were in fact marked unanswered by Celebrate?
Again, I'd have to see what you're referring to.
So as you testified to here today, you have no memory as to whether or not she made a number of other calls that were marked deleted, sir?
There are a number of calls that morning. I have not memorized all of them.
And again, Your Honor, if I may approach to show something that's on a computer screen?
Thank you. Got it.
Okay. I've placed before you what appears to be a PDF document on a computer screen. If you familiarize yourself with it and look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
What does that appear to be, sir?
An incomplete PDF of the call logs from whoever's call log this is.
Okay. And do you see in that PDF that there were a number of calls that were marked unanswered by Celebrate?
Again, I can't testify to any of this because I can't confirm that where this data came from. There's no source file. This is it's incomplete. So I do see what you're talking about in that column, but I don't know what any of this data is from or who made this.
Is your name on it?
At the very top, it would show my name no matter what because I created the UFED and the extraction. I did not create this PDF.
So the answer to my question is your name is on that document, correct?
It is, but I didn't create it.
Right. And with regard to the calls that were marked unanswered, would you agree with me that Celebrate had them with durations of 0 seconds?
Objection.
Can you agree with that? Can you answer that question? If you can, please answer it.
With the data given here, I can't because, like I said, I don't know where they got this from, Your Honor.
So who created that document?
I don't know.
So are you testifying that nobody in law enforcement created that document, or nobody, no forensic expert for the Commonwealth created that document?
I created the extraction and made a UFED reader report, which is basically a portable Celebrate version that I use at the office. I gave that to defense. I don't know who created this PDF version of data with specific things. I did not.
Was it Michael Proctor?
No. As I said, I was the only one that created any Celebrate-related reports in this case.
Well, I'd like to ask you some questions about my client's cell phone, sir.
Okay?
On Tuesday, when Mr. Lally was questioning you, he had you point out and read some text messages that were on her phone between John O'Keefe and her, correct?
Those messages were taken from John O'Keefe's phone.
Okay. Would you agree with me when he was pointing out those text messages to you, he skipped about 40 pages of messages at one point?
I don't know, I believe their text messages went back all the way to 2020 or something ridiculous
Right.
in his phone.
He started reading them and he skipped ahead about 40 pages, did he not?
I have no idea.
Michael Proctor seized my client's phone on January 29th of 2022, did he not?
He did.
And you would agree with me that certainly as of 6 days later, your February 4th report, you had not yet been able to access the content of the phone, correct?
That's not true.
At some point, you were able to access the content of the phone, correct?
Yes, on January 31st.
Of 2022,
Yes.
all right? You later became aware that Michael Proctor was searching through my client's phone in August of 22, correct?
The actual device itself? Or the extraction report?
Either one, sir.
I have, I'm sorry, Miss Reed's phone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we didn't,
Hey, John O'Keefe's phone?
yes, that's why I was
I
confused, sorry.
apologize. I'm not trying to confuse you.
Yeah.
With regard to my client's phone, which is where we started.
Yeah.
You're aware that Michael Proctor was searching through her phone in August of 2022.
Of the extraction report created, correct.
Were you made aware that on January 1st of 2023, the defense requested a full forensic image of Karen Reed's phone, which was in your possession?
I don't know the date, but a request was made for the phone extraction, yes.
And have you seen a forensic image or Celebrate a report of the forensic image from Karen Reed's phone?
The redacted version that I received back from the AG's office, yes.
Okay. And would you please tell the jurors how many phone calls were deleted from Karen Reed's phone from January 29th of 2022?
None.
And if you'd please tell the jurors, other than to John O'Keefe, to whom did Ms. Reed place phone calls between 12 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on January 29th?
Her parents twice. There 2 or 3 times there's calls to her parents, and that's it.
And how many Google searches did she do from 12 a.m. until 5 a.m.?
I don't believe there were any.
And how many Google searches were deleted by Ms. Reed at any point on January 29th of 2022?
I can't speak to that because we got a redacted version of the report, so I don't know what was taken out by the AG's office. I don't know what files they went in to remove, so I only have what I was given.
But leaving that aside, sir, with regard to all of the data that was provided to you, how many Google searches did you see or find that Karen Reed deleted from January 29th of 2022?
A few.
During what time period?
The afternoon, but again, there was artifacts that I found that weren't date and time stamped, and there were some that were with corresponding timestamps, but I can't say for sure when that was done.
Okay. But you saw no deleted calls, correct?
No, not that I know of.
All right. If I may have a moment?
Yes.
Sorry.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pegrino, you were asked about your qualifications as far as certifications that you received in prior trainings, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the areas that you received certifications in?
Cell phone report creation, extraction, cell phone repair, the Berlin Motor Vehicle Forensics, advanced database. The class is called CASA, but it's a Cellbrite made class that goes deeper into the database searching. SQLite programming to write code to do your own searches, things of that nature.
Now, at any point in time, did Trooper Proctor ever tell you that he retrieved Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone directly from 34 Fairview Road?
No, he didn't.
Is it your understanding, or subsequently did you learn that Kerry Roberts actually recovered the phone from under Mr. O'Keefe's body, from the grass under his body at 34 Fairview Road when he was placed onto a scoop stretcher?
I don't know who recovered the phone that morning, but I know.
I'll allow it.
I don't know.
Your answer is you don't know who recovered it?
No, I just know that it was found underneath his body and then taken to Canton PD.
Now, with regard to that, as far as the location data post 6:15 a.m., what, if anything, did you observe in reference to that?
There was some intermittent native locations that showed at the Canton PD. It's there for a handful of different points, and then it shows it back at our office when I put it into the digital evidence lab, powered on to plug in.
You received the phone from Trooper Proctor. Was that either in airplane mode or Faraday back?
I don't remember offhand.
But there were no locations or GPS locations that you observed from the phone from that approximately 11-something a.m. until you retrieved it, or received it, excuse me, at 7:30 p.m. on the 29th?
There was, like I said, there was only the handful that showed it at Canton PD, and then when it's back at the office that night, and then if it wasn't in airplane mode, it would have been something I would have done. So I don't remember if Proctor did it before he gave it to me or if I did it after.
Now, the other troopers in your unit, in the detective unit with the Norfolk DA's office, are they as well versed on cell phone extractions and cell phone data as you are?
No.
And so again, how many people within your specific unit actually perform data extractions or forensic analysis of cell phone?
Myself, Trooper Connor Keefe, and everyone has been trained in how to use Cellbrite and to do these extractions. They all just sort of dump them on my desk and say, do this phone for me. So.
Now, as far as what you provide to one of the investigating troopers, such as Trooper Proctor, can you explain to the jury sort of that process of how you, what if any differences there are between what you're looking at as far as the device when you're extracting the information and what you provide to the trooper?
So when I plug into Graykey or Cellbrite or whatever tool I'm using to extract the data, it creates that zip file, and then I open it up in Cellbrite or Axiom. The guys are only trained in Cellbrite, so that's what I open the extractions initially in for them. If there's something that we find that they don't understand and that I want to look more into, I'll load into Axiom as well. But that's normally how it would go.
Now, is there any way from the version or the extraction that you provide to the trooper, is there any way for that or any trooper to change or manipulate that data from what is initially contained on the phone?
Well, in essence, you could, but you'd have to go in. So once I create like that UFED reader, which is the portable case, you would have to go into the folders and then delete stuff, which would change all of the data. And then when I would load it up later, it probably wouldn't work right. But that's why we save the encrypted extraction onto the server. So if anything ever messes up, we can go back and reload it, and I can create whatever reports I need with it.
And so from your review of the data in the phones in this case, what, if anything, did you observe in regard to any manipulation of data or deletion of data or removal of data from what you observed?
From the encrypted files that we have, none. And then we didn't have passcodes for the phones for John O'Keefe's until the 31st, and then again for Miss Reed's until, like I said, August, once the program was able to open it.
Now, you were asked some questions about Mr. Green's affidavit. Following your review of Mr. Green's affidavit, what, if any, steps did you take in relation to what was indicated in there?
So as I said, I didn't really go through the phones much when we first got them. I don't know everything about the case as the investigators do, so I got his report and I went through it and basically just went step by step. So he says, this happened, I went to confirm it. If it didn't, then I need to find out why he was either incorrect or slightly off and either just completely wrong or just misinterpreted the data, and that was it.
And in addition to yourself going through some of the data, who, if anyone, did you contact to assist or to also, in addition, go through the data specifically as it related to the searches for Ms. McCabe's?
So initially, when I first found it, I spoke with Chris Vance of Magnet Forensics. He's their head technical guy for Axiom. He's like their forensic specialist. So he was at the cybercrime conference. I brought him.
I'm going to allow this.
I brought the extraction there, and I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what it parsed out. Why are we seeing it marked this way? And he goes, well, first off, you have to look exactly where it's coming from. The browser state.
Objection.
So I'll strike that last part, what he told you.
Okay. Just reviewing the data, we saw that it came from the browser state DB file and .wall file, I should say, at the end. So it set off a lot of red flags. And then from there, we contacted Cellbrite and ultimately Jessica Hyde.
And ultimately, Mr. Whiffen as well, is that correct?
Yes, he came in after Cellbrite. I had reached out to them, and they escalated it up, and he reached out to us to help us.
Now, with respect to the health data that you were asked about, again, if you could explain to the jury when something in there in the health data says steps, what exactly does steps mean?
As I said before, the phone is seeing movement. Doesn't necessarily mean you're taking steps. If you have the iWatch paired to it, you're going to get a greater level of accuracy, and I would be more apt to believe that steps are being taken because it's going to also bring your heart rate. So if you're taking a large amount of steps, it's going to correspond.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions on cross-examination about just the health data and just the health data. Why is it that you would look beyond just the health data?
Well, you have the GPS points as well as the health data. We're trying to look at everything together as a whole. You take one artifact and say, well, this means this, but you could have 5 others that disclaim it. So that's why we look at all of this stuff.
Now, from that same information as far as the GPS data, that indicated that Mr. O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview Road at 12:25 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as the clocks or the 3 different clocks that was presented to you that's now been marked for identification, you indicated that those were not accurate, is that correct?
Well, the file that it's coming from is not accurate. So it came from a power log file that's the database it pulled from. So that it's telling you the power of the phone. So when I looked at that, that also shows the battery level. And that's how I was able to show that, or see, I should say, that John O'Keefe's phone never turned off. It dropped down to about 17% battery level. From being under his body, it was actually saved it from dying overnight. Then it also shows the timestamps of when it gets plugged in and as it goes up. That has 3 different timestamps. That's what that is from. That is not when Waze has started. That is not when the address is put in. That is strictly for the power log. There's nothing to do with anything else.
And so, again, just sort of to that point, what, if any, connection to those timestamps in the the document marked for identification Mr. Yannetti showed you, what, if any, relationship does that have to the timestamps contained within either the Waze or the GPS native locations or anything else that you were testifying about before?
It's literally showing that Waze has been opened and that it's pulling power from the phone, and that is it. That is nothing else.
Now, with regard to, you were asked some questions about Ms. McCabe signing a consent for extraction on February 2nd, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Kerry Roberts, she did the same on the same date, is that also correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, the entirety of those extractions from both Ms. McCabe's phone and Ms. Roberts' phones, those were both provided well in advance of the dates that counsel was indicating, correct?
That is correct.
Now, in regard to the Cellbrite extraction, in regard to Mr. Green's affidavit, Cellbrite has periodically updates the versions of their software, correct?
That is correct.
And if you could you speak a bit about sort of the update in those versions and how that pertains to this case and specifically Ms. McCabe's searches?
So the initial report that I created with version 7.53 did not have that item to be able to be taken out. I was told by Celebrate that 7.55 was the version that was enabled. Mr. Green used version 7.61, so that's why it presented itself then.
Can I just stop you there for 1 second? The version that Mr. Green used, was that available at the time that you did the initial extraction?
No, it wasn't available for like a year later. It was like 10 upgrades later.
I'm sorry, sir, continue.
So again, he did the extraction, he looked at it, finds this artifact that's parsed out, and then I had to go back in and scramble to say, well, why didn't I see it the first time when that report, why didn't it pull? So I reloaded the 7.53 version. It's not there. And then when I loaded into 7.61, it is. So there's just an issue with the software at the time.
So, sir, with regard to those Google searches, what, if any, opinion do you have as to when those Google searches were conducted?
When Ms. McCabe told us that it happened at 6:23 and 6:24. And then there was a third one later at 10:35 that, again, if she reopened that browser window, it's going to reload the search, and then that was it. Those are the 3 times that I saw in the phone extraction that were real searches.
And why is it that you, it's your opinion that they occurred at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning and not 2:27?
Well, it's just physically impossible to search 2 things at once. Her phone, she's searching the daughter's basketball at 2:27, and then she's searching It's Raining Men and a few other things on her phone, listening to music. And I think then she goes to bed a few hours later. So I was told as the defendant asked her to search for those terms, that's when we believed that they were done.
Now, as far as wall files or write-ahead log, having things listed as deleted, if you could just speak a little bit more about that as far as why would something be listed as deleted in a wall file, and what does that mean?
Again, the user has no input on how a wall file is deleted. It's an automated thing that the database does to clean up. It auto deletes after either programs are closed, it reaches a max data allotment for that page. That is it.
And that would include any sort of call log history that was contained in the write-ahead log or the wall file as well?
That is correct.
And so what, if any, opinion do you have as to those phone calls that you were showing in relation to the contact listed in Ms. McCabe's phone as Coco, as far as whether or not they were user deleted?
Well, again, what the defense showed me was limited thing. I know there's should be 2 other locations that phone call was listed from looking at it myself. So I don't know why they gave me just the 2 deleted things, but there should be other spots in the database where that phone call was there. So I don't believe that it was user initiated. It was phone initiated.
And that's in reference to the write-ahead log, sort of first in, first out as far as data that comes in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, again, as far as your unit was concerned, you were the only one who created any Cellbrite reports in relation to any of the phones, in this case with the exception of the defendant's phone that was created by the Attorney General's office following their extraction of privileged material, correct?
Objection.
So objection is sustained as to the form. This seems a good place to stop. So jurors, we'll take the luncheon break. There is a chance that we may be able to go a full day tomorrow, so just think about that at lunch. And if there's any emergency that would prevent you from being able to go a full day.
Sure, it's closing your notebooks, leaving on the chairs, all rise, welcome, all right.
Yeah, so Mac Apps. You're next. No problem. Chris Bates. Yeah, no problem.
You are muted.